Hi everyone, it's William. I wasn't sure if I'd be doing an episode of the Grand Duke Dmitri Diary series today, since I did one yesterday, but I figured what the heck, I'm at home, I'm free, I've got the material ready to go, so we'll dive into it. Our recap for yesterday's diary entry, or rather the concluding paragraphs of the diary entry of 11th of October 1917, Dmitri talking about depression, homesickness, and how those things were impacting his relationship with Lady Marling, because she made assumptions about his bad mood and apparently took it personally, although, according to Dmitri, it had nothing to do with her. I don't know, if I'm wrong in accepting Dmitri's characterization of her as being a difficult person. Obviously, I don't have access to her diary if she kept one, or her reaction to what he was saying about her and what she perceived. But he mentioned her sort of acuity in perceiving his mood, and that was an issue because, as you'll see in today's diary entries, he was trying to conceal his depression. All right, so we're going to try and get through 3 short diary entries today. And yeah, let's get started. So we start with the Thursday, 5th October. I don't really need to say that because he says it himself. So here we go. Now I'll say a few words about my life this week. So it was on the night of Thursday, 5th October, that financial drama occurred, of which I spoke above. That morning I had breakfast with Hartman at the Grand Hotel, and then we went back to the bazaar where I blew more money on stamps. We also dined at the same place that evening. It was supposed to be a dinner of 3 Horse Guards officers, Hartman, myself, and Staroselsky, who by some miracle was given our uniform, but having only been listed as commander of the regiment for 2 months, didn't accept it. But there ended up being 5 of us at dinner because 2 other Russian officers, instructors, and comrades of Staroselsky joined us. I have already noted that after dinner we decided to stop by the Club Imperial and described how that turned out indeed. So I'll stop there before we go on to the 6th. There's not much that needs to be said about this diary entry of the 5th. You already know from the long diary entry what happened. Yeah, these are, so we're doing this, the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and these were the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th were the 4 days that Dmitri described himself as being prostrated, and clearly not in a physical sense. He wasn't lying around in bed. He was still doing what he was expected to do, and socializing, but he was feeling prostrated, and as I said, he was trying to cover it up. Okay, so the specifics here, the day that it happened, if you recall, Hartman was his former commanding officer in the Horse Guards, which was now disbanded, and Hartman was visiting Tehran for 3 or 4 days, and Dmitri was enjoying very much having him there. And so they went to the bazaar together. Then they had this, what was it? Breakfast or lunch? No, it was dinner with, it was supposed to be Hartman and Staroselsky and Dmitri, all of them as Horse Guards officers. And as I've said in the past, for male Romanovs and male aristocrats, your regiment, your guards regiment, was like your alma mater, right? It was a sort of like belonging to a fraternity in university days. It was, you were making lifelong friendships. It was the center of your social life. yeah, so they were going to have this dinner. The thing being that Staroselsky had been technically listed, as Dmitri says, as commander of the Horse Guards after Hartmann left, but only for 2 months. This was after the revolution, and he never took that command. And so even though he was authorized to wear that uniform, he hadn't accepted that. The uniform that was sent to him, he hadn't accepted. And that was a big deal, because it would have been just a gross insult to wear, as now, I think, in any military force, to wear a uniform that you're not entitled to, especially if it's from some elite unit. But anyway, technically he was a Horse Guards officer, and they were going to have this dinner together, just Horse Guards officers, but then he brought 2 of his fellow instructors from the Persian Cossack division. And if you recall, they tried to talk Dmitri into also becoming an instructor in the division, which he decided not to do. Okay, then after dinner, we decided to stop by the club, he says, the Club Imperial. And we know, as he himself says, we know how that turned out. All right, let's go on to the 6th. Looks like we have time. So the 6th October, Friday, I returned home after my lousy, sleepless night at the club, only around 10 o'clock in the morning. I had morning coffee with the Marlings under the rather mocking but not mean remarks on their part, and then went to bed. Naturally, I didn't get up for lunch and only showed my face around 4 o'clock. In the afternoon, I went riding with Lady Marling, but of course felt awful the whole time. Lots of people came to dinner: Etcher, Romero, the Yevrenovs, and Hartmann. The latter, of course, teased me mercilessly about last night. He was leaving the next morning, and since I did not intend to accompany him, we had a good long talk that evening after dinner. I thought about sending a reply to Baratov with him, but then decided to wait a little and asked old Napier, the English military agent, to deliver a letter to him when he sets off for Hamadan on 8th October. Okay, so Baratov, Dmitri's commanding officer at this time, had sent a letter to him through Hartmann. So now Dmitri needed to write back, and he didn't want to put it in the post for whatever reason, and so he was looking for someone that could take it. But he wasn't quite ready with Hartmann leaving the next day, and with him being hungover and everything that had happened, he wasn't ready to write that letter yet. Okay, so this sense that he has of being mocked, but in a kindly way. That's what makes me assert that he was trying to cover up his depression, because you're not going to tease somebody, in a friendly, bantering way if you can see that he's suffering, if you can see that he's deeply depressed. So he was trying his best to disguise it. Lucia Marling saw through that. The others later, not on the day, the others clearly did not at all see through that. And so here he was feeling just ashamed and horrible about what had happened, but people were teasing him, thinking that he would enter into the fun. So that was difficult for him for obvious reasons. Hartmann also teasing mercilessly, as he says, that evening at dinner. I'm sure a dinner party was the last thing that he wanted to be involved with at that point. It does interest me, among those invited, 3 or 4, since Mrs. Yevrenov was there, of the guests were Russian. There was another diplomatic guest, Romero, who was Spanish. But the question I have is, did the Marlings, were they so close, and did they socialize so much with the members of the Russian community, both diplomatic and military, and those working at the Imperial Bank of Persia? Or were they doing this on Dmitri's behalf? I don't know. I guess it would have been a fairly tight-knit European community, but the English and the Russians had for decades been rivals or the British and the Russians in Persia, in that whole region. And so it's interesting that they were closely socializing. Yeah, so I only did the 6th and the 7th in my read-through. Okay, well, I guess I'll go along to, I'll go along to Saturday the 7th October. It's a simple one. I spent the morning at home. I wanted to arrange a tennis party, but it didn't work out. In the afternoon after lunch, there was a paper chase organized by the Swedes. There were very few participants because nobody wanted to ride over the rocky terrain of Tehran, and they were very wise because the place where Harvitsen laid the trail was covered with rocks and had very few obstacles. The ride lasted about an hour, which was also too long, and ended with tea in the Yusuf Abad barracks of the 1st Gendarme Regiment and the place where the Swedes have their mess. After tea, we went home. The participants in the hunt were Lady Marling, Katlubowski, Dr. Stump, a dentist, and 3 Swedes. Naturally, my little horse had a pronounced limp the next day. I dined à trois with the Marlings at home and went to bed early. All right, Dr. Stump. I love that name, the dentist, Dr. Stump. Okay. Yeah, so again, this is one of the days that he says he was prostrated, and yet we see him trying to arrange a tennis party and then going and participating in this paper chase, and maybe both because he was trying to conceal his depression and because it helped to have things to do. Maybe that's why that explains that apparent discrepancy. And other than that, yeah, there's not much to say about that one. It was the custom that he had to spend afternoons with Lady Marling. Usually they went out on some kind of picnic or excursion. And so they were spending a lot of time together. And we see them participating together in this paper chase. Anyway, what do we have next time? Well, next time is a very, very interesting one because it involves, of all people, Missy, the Queen of Romania. Not because she's there, but because Dmitri suddenly has a lot to say about her. Some also very interesting text about what he decided to do in relation to the pressure he was under to move out of the Marlings' place. Obviously, he didn't move out of their place, but how he approached dealing with that. And what it was like to go to church in the aftermath of the revolution. So yeah, all interesting stuff. It's a long, short entry, and I hope to see you for that. Today is a Thursday. I think I will do that one on the coming Saturday. So skipping one day, and I'll see you then. Bye.